This isn't about checking boxes. It's about control. Control over your income, control over your taxes, control over your timeline. Because when you don't have control, you're reacting to whatever happens. The other day, we reviewed a retirement plan with a client we're working with, and on paper, she did everything right. Maxed out our 401k, saved consistently, avoided major mistakes, and she still looked at me and said, what happens if I have a big expense outside of my normal retirement income? Maybe I want a down payment for a shore house. I just feel like I'm stuck. I don't have options if I need a large sum of money because I don't have any cash. And that's the part nobody talks about when they talk about saving for retirement. Because retirement isn't just about how much you have, it's about how much control you have. Here are 5 moves we're helping clients make right now, not to just grow their wealth, but to actually give them the control heading into retirement. First, build assets outside of your retirement accounts. This is one of the biggest gaps we see. Most people do this. They max out their 401k, maybe in an IRA, and then they think they're set. But then retirement shows up and they only have access if they're willing to pay the price in taxes and Medicare surcharges. Here's an example. 2 clients, both with about $1.5 million saved. Client A, everything is in retirement accounts. Client B has a brokerage account and cash reserves. They both need $80,000 of income. Client A has no choice. They're forced to pull from their IRA, which increases their taxable income, can push them into higher tax brackets, and even increase their Medicare premiums. Client B has options. They can pull from brokerage accounts, harvest gains strategically, or even use cash to keep income lower. Same net worth, completely different outcomes. And here's the part that people miss. Client A is reacting, client B is deciding. The difference shows up every single year in retirement. This is what allows you to control your income, delay Social Security, and execute Roth conversions efficiently. If you strip it down, flexibility equals better decisions. Second, clean up your debt, but do it with intention. The goal isn't perfection, it's control. We had a client going into retirement with $25,000 in credit card debt, car loan, and a mortgage. Their credit cards alone were costing them over $5,000 a year in interest. That's not just $5,000, that's $5,000 their portfolio now has to generate every single year just to stand still. Over a 20-year retirement, that's over $100,000 of drag before you even factor in growth. Now compare 2 people. Person A pays off that $25,000 immediately. Person B keeps the debt. Person B ends up paying roughly $5,000 a year in interest. Over 10 years, that's about $50,000 gone, just in interest. But the real cost is bigger. If that same $5,000 per year had been invested instead, earning a modest 6%, it could grow to roughly $65,000 over that same period. So person B doesn't just spend 50 grand, they also miss out on $65,000 of potential growth. That's over $100,000 of impact from one decision. So we eliminated high interest debt first, no debate. Mortgage becomes a strategy decision, not an emotional one, because sometimes it makes sense to keep it, sometimes it doesn't, but it should always be intentional, because debt in retirement doesn't just cost you money, it reduces your margin for error. And when something changes, markets, health expenses, that's when it becomes a problem. Third, realign your portfolio to your timeline. This is where people get exposed. Let's say you're 2 years from retirement, planning to stop working at 65, and the market drops 25%. If you're heavily invested in equities, your $1.5 million portfolio just became roughly $1.1 million. That's a $400,000 swing. Now the question becomes, are you still retiring at 65? For a lot of people, the answer is no. Now you're looking at working 2 to 3 more years, reducing your lifestyle, or pulling from a depressed portfolio. None of those are great options, but here's what most people miss. A market downturn doesn't have to delay retirement if your portfolio is built correctly. If you have fixed income in place and the market decline isn't being driven by rising interest rates like we saw in 2022, you have another option. You can pull your income from the fixed income side of your portfolio while giving your equities time to recover. Instead of selling stocks at a loss, you're creating space. This is what we refer as the war chest model. It's about having a portion of your portfolio designed specifically to fund your lifestyle during periods of volatility. So instead of reacting to the market, you're working around it. We've seen this make a massive difference because now the question isn't, do I have to delay retirement? It becomes, do I have the right structure to stay on track? So we always bring it back to one simple check. If the market drops 20 to 30%, does your plan still hold? Because if that kind of move forces you to delay retirement, cut spending, or change your timeline, then your portfolio isn't aligned with where you are. At this stage, it's not about chasing more return, it's about making sure what you've built can actually carry you through retirement. Fourth, get your estate plan in place. This is the one almost everyone avoids. We reviewed a case recently, and the beneficiary on the account was an ex-spouse from 12 years ago. Everything else in their plan said something different, but it didn't matter because beneficiary designations override your will. So what they intended and what was actually going to happen were two completely different things. And this happens more often than people think. We also see missing contingent beneficiaries, outdated documents, no power of attorney in place, which means if something happens, decisions get delayed, complicated, or worse, made by the wrong person. At a minimum, you need a will, a power of attorney, healthcare directive, correct beneficiaries, and depending on the situation, a trust may make sense, not just for wealth, but for simplicity. Because if your plan doesn't transfer cleanly, it's not complete. Fifth, start modeling Roth conversions before retirement. This is one of the most underutilized strategies we see. For example, let's take a client retiring at 62. From 62 to 73, before RMDs start, they're in a relatively low tax bracket if they've been thoughtful about how they saved and where they will generate their retirement income from. This is the window, but most people miss it. They wait until 73 when RMDs forced income out, Social Security is already on, and now they're in a higher tax bracket whether they like it or not. Let's say they convert $100,000 per year for 5 years in that lower bracket. What this does is lowers lifetime taxes, creates tax-free income later, and more importantly, it gives them control over how and when they recognize income. But here's the key. You don't guess on this, you model it. Because doing too much too fast can push you into a worse position. And ideally, you're paying those taxes from assets outside retirement accounts, which brings us right back to step one. Liquidity creates opportunity. So if we simplify all of this, here's what actually matters. Build liquidity outside of your retirement accounts, reduce and control your debt, align your portfolio with your timeline, lock in your estate plan, proactively manage your taxes, because each of these decisions either increases your control or takes it away. Because this isn't about checking boxes, it's about control. Control over your income, control over your taxes, control over your timeline. Because when you don't have control, you're reacting to whatever happens. But when you do, you're making decisions on your terms. Most people build retirement accounts. We build retirement strategies, and those are two very different outcomes. Thanks for watching today's video. If you want to see exactly what we do for our clients in terms of reducing their tax bill, beefing up their investments, and planning for the future, or if you want to just book a quick telewealth call, click on the link in the description. See you on the next one.